right, welcome to Your Time, Your Money, the show where your time is just as valuable as your money, and we know that. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm here with my partner, Matt Torillo.
Thank you for joining us, folks. Where the viewership is starting to grow every week.
Yeah, we're excited.
Every week.
We've got some good rebranding going on. We've got some high quality shows coming out and some guests coming in that we're excited about.
We got listen the tax season guest, and we have some great people on the Your Coach Your Money. We're going to be doing a mobile podcast pretty soon. We got some really great community stuff going on. Everything is hitting on all cylinders right now. We're excited. We got a new digital guy behind the camera.
True. But let's talk today about the Dow Jones.
Ooh, the Dow Jones.
The Dow Jones, which originally was known as the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? I know most people say the Dow Jones, right? And I think this is where a lot of listeners, can get a good education, because a lot of times we get just the comment, how's the market doing?
Right. I see the market's down today, and it's like, well,
the market.
There's a lot of complexity to that statement, right? Like, what part of the market are you talking about?
What market? What
international market? Yes, I saw that was up.
Not all of them act the same. Exactly. But today we're going to focus on the Dow Jones. We did a segment not too long ago on the S&P 500. Right. Today we're going to be talking about the Dow Jones. Want to guess when the Dow Jones started?
Oh, let me see. 1873.
Oh, close. 1884.
Oh, I was close.
Yeah,
I was really
1884 by Charles Dow and Edward Jones.
The Dow
Thus,
Jones.
the Dow Jones.
The Dow Jones.
Versus the Charles Edward, which would be a little weird or whatever.
And
there were
Charles Edward.
Yeah. And it's actually started with 9 railroad companies and 2 industrial companies in it. And it was meant to be an indicator of all the industrial companies within the country. Right.
Which at that time that we were in a boom, right? There was an industrial boom.
Industrial Revolution, it was called, right?
Well, it was a massive change in the country. We were heading westward. There was massive railroads. Now, there's only 1 or 2 active railroads for passenger cars in the United States of America. How crazy is that?
Yes. One was Reading, and one was, I'm thinking the Monopoly.
The B&O Railroad.
The Monopoly Board Railroad.
Mark's lost a lot of Monopoly games to his kids. I know he has.
Actually, an interesting fact that I didn't realize was that Charles Dow and Edward Jones, they were partners, but they were the predecessor to the Wall Street Journal.
Oh yeah,
the Dow Jones Industrial publication was the predecessor to the Wall Street Journal. So a little interesting fact there. But obviously, as we moved away from being an industrial nation in the sense of the industrial boom, some of those industrial companies left that average, and now we see what we
NASDAQ, S&P,
we see all
Russell,
different companies, right?
Yeah, McAfee.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part of the Dow Jones is that it is really one of the only trackers that is price weighted.
Correct. Versus
the other indices, which are volume, capital, so large cap, mid cap, small cap, whereas this is weighted towards price, and I think that's important that investors understand that, because it started as 12 companies, but now it's 30.
Right, and that's why they call it the Dow 30. If you look on Yahoo Finance, you'll see it says Dow 30.
Yeah, so
that's why they'll say it's such a big company.
And I think this is where there's confusion to our listeners, is people will say, well, the Dow is down XYZ dollars.
Right.
My portfolio must be down. Well, you may not have the majority of your portfolio in those Dow companies.
Right.
Or you may be very heavily weighted in them. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all the companies that you're in. So the S&P could be up and the Dow could be down,
right?
Because there's more weighting on the number of companies in the S&P.
Correct.
Right.
And there's more companies in the S&P, right? They may not be big,
470 or some more.
500. Yeah, 504 more, right?
Yeah. So but what's interesting to realize is that the original companies in there, a lot of them aren't even in business anymore.
Correct.
Right, you had United States Rubber Company, you had the United States Leather Company, you had railroad company. We're not big manufacturers of rubber anymore, or the mass producer of leather anymore.
Right.
But companies that are in there are spread out between all the different segments of our economy.
Yes.
Right? So you would have Home Depot in there, you would have Caterpillar, you had 3M, you have Johnson & Johnson, United Healthcare, Walmart, which actually replaced Walgreens in the in that average. So really touching on all the different areas that people deal with it on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So if you look at it, it's really a kind of a basket of goods of what the average person would buy throughout their lifetime.
I remember reading this great article where it said, any product that you pick up off the shelf, you're buying it from one of 7 massive companies in the world. Right, no matter what the product is or where you're buying it, it's made by one of 7 massive companies.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like corporation. It's a corporation, United States of America.
Well, the large companies, you either know their name, or if you don't know their name, you know their product.
Right.
Right. So chances are you invest in a lot of companies you don't know about just by buying the products.
Right. Yeah.
Which is an important thing. But being price weighted, so what they do, it's kind of a complicated formula that they do is they take the price per share of all the companies in there, but then they add a divider factor. And this divider factor is meant to even out the average so that you don't see big drops should a company go through a stock split, right? Because let's say a company's $500 a share and the stock split drives them down to
10 to 1, $50 a share.
$50 a share. You're going to see the whole index just drop like a massive rock. Right. So they apply a divider factor to even it out, and it incorporates in the spin-offs or the stock splits.
There's no dilution for exactly.
So like an Abbott went to AbbVie, you had some dilution of shares. That kind of factor that they divide by is meant to even that out, so that you get a consistent growth or decline in the market, not based off of just the share split or whatever. Want to guess what the Dow started at? It's at
Dow's at like 20. What? No, 36,000.
Went to 40. Is a little bit. It's about 38, 39 right
39.
now. So it was at 40,000.
Let me get. It probably started at like 20, 30.
62.
Oh, it's close again.
It started at 62. It reached a low of 28 during
there we go. During the 29
depression.
1920, 28, 29.
But so we've come a long way, and that still continues to grow today. Right. So here we are, almost 40,000 on the Dow, and it came from.
I remember a former predecessor of ours, old Teddy Bear Davis, right? Phenomenal guy. And he always used to say, Matt, I'm going to tell you the Dow's going to hit 40 before it hits 20 again. And it's a great statement because it's a question of, I wish I had a time machine and go back to 1929 and spend $500 and buy, every stock that's in the Dow.
I think you just wanted the DeLorean to
drive
around
the DeLorean. I can't fit in a DeLorean, Mark. If I did, you need the jaws of life to get me out. Okay. But
they have full doors. You can fit it.
Without them closing, maybe, yeah. The DeLorean on steroids, maybe. But that's where we always stress to our clients, be smart about purchasing and dollar cost averaging, because a lot of people they try to make these big moves in their life. Hey, I want to get to investing. I'm going to drop in $100,000. Well, sometimes it's smarter to drop in 20 and then dollar cost average over the course of a 2 or 3 year period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it signifies how resilient the market is, because
oh my gosh, yeah.
I just pulled up some facts of kind of when you think about what the Dow has been through, right? Starting in the 1800s, it's been through so many economic situations, turmoil, collapses, things along that lines.
Right?
Just a couple of them. The 1940s, the recession, 1950s, the Korean War, the Cold War. 1950s went through Korean and Cold War, but yet the Dow grew by over 240%.
Right.
So during 2 major conflicts out there, in the 60s, you had the Kennedy slide in 1962, big drop in the Dow, but still ended up finishing up.
The inflation-ridden 70s.
Yeah, right. And it just kept snowballing into the first Gulf War, all the economic, turmoil with 2008, 2009. And, it still managed to grow to 40,000.
Yeah,
so
I think it's a good test for people to look at time and say, there's never a bad time to invest, right?
Correct.
Especially if you're looking long term, and that I feel like so many people, because of the current way of the world with cryptocurrency and making a quick dollar, everyone wants to get rich fast, but the old Warren Buffett adage, I'll get rich slow. Right? Get rich slow, because no one wants to get rich slow.
Or just get rich.
Right? But it's a tough narrative with the younger generation, because they see, hey, my friend made 20 grand on a crypto trade. I want to do the same thing. And oops, I just lost $3,000.
Yeah. And as a side note, sometimes you'll hear a phrase that says dogs of the Dow. And that's the top 10 companies in the Dow that have the highest dividend yield. So some people will diversify, or I shouldn't say diversify, or specifically go towards the dogs of the Dow if they want a higher yield or dividend producing stock. So it is a great index to kind of give you an overall sense of the economy, because it touches a lot of the main companies that provide things to the American population.
It's really the heartbeat of the how the American economy is doing, because if we're doing well, we're going to see the Dow do well.
Yeah,
as an economy.
Yeah, and an important thing, once again, to leave our listeners with is that it is still only 30 companies in the entire world of companies out there, to base investments off of, and it's also not really a fair comparison to a portfolio.
Right.
It's hard to compare a baby boomers portfolio that has some protections using fixed income and stuff like that to the performance of the Dow or any pure stock index, because you want to have protections built in there for things like sequence of return risk and other things that come on with life.
There's a lot of downside in some people as we look at clients' portfolios. They're overexposed to individual stocks, or they're overexposed to bonds, right? And we want a good mix of things in a portfolio. Some might be Dow related, but for those of you who are interested in investing in the Dow with those high dividend producing investments, you need a big number to generate a big enough dividend.
Yeah.
To get the value out of it. If I take $500 and put it into a dividend producing Dow stock,
and you say, remit my dividend, mail it to me.
I'm going to make 80 cents on my 500, right? So it's the law of large numbers.
And then you get the paper statement fee, and then it's gone.
Oh man, I lost money this quarter, right? So sometimes it is that law of large numbers where I need a couple $100,000 in one of those dividend producers to make it worth owning that many shares.
Correct. So, hopefully the listeners get a better understanding of the Dow Jones, what it is, what it tracks, and some of the companies that are in there. If you have questions about other investment-related topics, you can reach out to Iron Tree Financial at 43 British American Boulevard in Latham, New York, 12110. You can reach us at 844-444-YTYM for your time, your money. If you like this episode, then definitely share it with friends, families, and coworkers. Don't forget your coworkers. Water cooler talk. It sometimes is important to say, hey, I listened to a great podcast. I think you should really go out and check them out and subscribe to it. So once again, it's your time
and your money.